So good morning, everyone, and thank you. Thank you for being here. Appreciate everyone. Appreciate everyone standing up at the back. As Dave alluded, we're both from the same institution, UCHealth, University of Colorado. We actually wanted to start with a little bit of housekeeping, couple of rules. We don't want to turn this to a very informative session. We want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to ask questions throughout the whole session, and also ask and share your knowledge or experiences throughout the session. So please just interrupt us. There is no
raise up your hand.
Raise your hand and go ahead and ask us questions. So a little bit about me. For those of you who can't tell from the accent, I'm from Australia. I started my career 22 years ago. In 2001, I started my career as a bench tech and worked my way up through the ranks. In those years, I always learned from my peers. So standing here in front of you, telling you stuff about my experiences, it's nothing but sharing some of that experience. But I have to say, by standing over here, I have to acknowledge the learnings that I've had has always come from people that stood by my side or actually sat in my classes in those years. In terms of the idea of this presentation came out of us talking at the shop. So I came from HIMSS, and I think Dave, you came from another conference.
Yeah, I don't
can't
know
remember which conference. We started talking about our experiences in our early years of working in the technology, in health technology, and how we didn't know anything about what future is going to look like. We didn't even know how IT is going to be so important in what we do. So I said I wish I knew back then how important things like EMR is going to become. I would spend more time learning about that 20 odd years ago, and I would probably navigate my career differently to today. And had somebody told me then, I would probably change some of those decisions early on in my career. My career took me from being a bench tech to be a imaging engineer, imaging install engineer, working for GE for several years. I worked for Arian as a Linux engineer, and then transitioned into management, and the rest has been in management. Similar experience in your case. You can speak to it better.
Yeah, I'm not going to go in too much, I guess. A lot of people in here probably know me, but one of my things was wearable technology. And those of you that went to my presentation yesterday kind of know that my wearable technology kind of became like I started learning about it by accident, by having some heart problems and not being able to track what was going on. And I ended up getting an Apple Watch and started tracking all of that, and figured out that I had intermittent AFib after going to the doctor's office. I don't even know how many times, urgent care doctor's office so many times. And when I go in there, I was out of intermittent AFib. I was normal rhythm. Like, everything looks good there, Mr. Scott. See you later. And so through that having that Apple Watch, I was actually able to, those of you that were in my presentation, export the report, take a picture of it, go into my health app, send it to my doctor through the health app, never stepping in the hospital, schedule me for a stress test, a nuclear stress test, based off of my ECG reading off my watch. So I was like, man, this is the future. There's something to this. And Rob and I started talking, and when he came back from him, it's like, I would go in his office. Oh my gosh, like let's talk again later, and then like, let's do a presentation on this. So that's where it all kind of started.
The idea of this presentation is kind of like, going back to the early days of your career. It doesn't matter if you're 5 years into this kind of like journey, if you're 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, you can always learn something from what's going on in the industry and share it with your peers and share it with your colleagues, and perhaps you can actually change that trajectory in someone else's career. So that's idea number one. Idea number two is to be able to, first of all, be adaptable to change. So as the change is coming to us, we need to make sure that as technologists, as people that are into health technology, we actually learn from what's going on in the industry, and by learning, we find the jobs for the future. So we are adapting to the changes that are coming our way. So we're going to start with the slides and kind of like bounce ideas off each other. But I really want to hear from you guys that are here today, if you can share some of the examples that you come across, whether, as I said, whether you've been in industry for 5 years, 10 years, or longer. Just let us know what your experience has been in that space.
First up, hospital at home, movement towards more in-home hospital care. Big players in this market. When Rob came back from HIMSS, he was telling me, Dave, they had Google there, Apple was there, Best Buy, Oracle, Microsoft. Recently, we saw, what was it? Costco. I was thinking not Sam's Club, the other one. Costco is getting into home health too. I just recently saw that Amazon purchased a online vet, like virtual vet visits for your dog and cat, like your pets through Amazon. Yeah. Walmart too. Okay.
That's correct.
Yeah. So I kind of think that, you know, like there's so many players in it right now that it's kind of going to maybe narrow down at some point. I don't know. I mean, that seems like how a lot of these bigger places are. The big fish eats the small fish kind of. But yeah, we like Walmart in Denver, Colorado. Did you know that? I don't know if you guys caught that joke or not, but Rob Walton, he's the owner of the Broncos, and he's also the Walmart guy. So all of us love Walmart now in Denver.
So just show of hands, how many of you think that we, as you know, whether we're technicians or engineers or managers, we'd be working for any one of these names in the next 5-10 years? That's fair. I mean, it is a possibility. The Geek Squad is something that Best Buy is actually working on, having technicians that are going out there working on medical equipment as home base.
The way I see like the Geek Squad is there's like a first level and maybe a second level. The second level would maybe be some people like us that actually know something about biomed.
Is the question that we need to ask ourselves.
So I think the question that you have to ask is, so what data are we collecting? Is it actionable data? Who's watching the data and who's taking action on the data? Is it getting into the hospital EMRs, you know, wherever
that's coming.
More than likely, no.
So Amy actually is working on a standard right now for secure communications for medical devices. I went to a presentation at Amy conference. It's like the last day at the last class that most people were gone already on Monday, but it's something that's being developed now, and I think there's a committee, and IEEE probably is working on something too, I'm guessing, but it's definitely a concern though. Yeah, the data. And we'll talk about that a little bit later too.
And then I guess what I need to add to this kind of like, you know, dynamic of healthcare in general, across the world, especially in the US, the cost of health is becoming so much, such a burden on society as a whole, but especially around, you know, Medicare, Medicaid, trying to reduce that cost. That reduction eventually gets to the consumer, and how we can actually mitigate that is the technology front, how we can actually reduce that cost. If we're going to get everyone to come to our hospitals, or are we going to change some of that dynamic and transition that care back to their homes?
So there's like, yeah, there's kind of a limited amount of acuity level. And if you ask me, I was in my presentation the other day, I think more and more hospital care is going to move to home care, and more wearable technology, which is what my other class was on, in the home. And it's funny, I went to a presentation the other day with Dr. Larry Fennikel, and he had ECG traces, and he had what did they call it, the gluteal ECG from your butt. So a toilet seat that people sit on that picked up ECG for home health. And he was saying that a lot of like older people didn't want to have leads connected to them and all this stuff connected to them. I mean, I have a watch that does quite a bit. There's going to be a lot more stuff in the future. The Aura rings, if you haven't seen that, but yeah, there's a big movement to home health. So next up is wearable technology, which I've already kind of touched on, which that was what my presentation, and that was like a prelude to this one, I guess, where we included a lot more. But wearable technology started out as fitness trackers. How many of you wear some kind of wearable technology like fitness tracker thing in here, like show of hands? Wow, quite a bit, okay. Or a ring or something like that. This goes along with the hospital to home movement, and there's being more and more sensors developed all the time. Right now, like my watch is not classified as a medical device by the FDA. It's a type 1 device, and type 2 devices are FDA type devices. So it's just basically a fitness tracker, but if you went to my presentation, you saw my doctor was able to look at my ECG trace from my watch and schedule me for a stress test. So it's, even though it's not a FDA certified device, it's still looked at as, you know, being helpful. And I did a presentation at our local association in Colorado, and one of the guys there, he was saying, well, Dave, how can they do diagnostics off a non-certified device? And I said, well, it was preliminary diagnostics. It wasn't like the in-hospital diagnostics, because when I got there, they ran another EKG on me, and I was hooked up when I did that, was on the treadmill. I had the 10 lead, blood pressure, all that stuff. During COVID, wearing a mask, which was awesome, doing a treadmill test with that. And especially when you start breathing hard and you're like, can I take the mask off? No. Like, oh, sorry, I won't ask again. So.
Yeah, and go ahead.
One thing to think about what you're mentioning is here that people don't realize this is, keep telling you, I know there's a, you know, we have called the butterfly, but Holter scanners have been around for decades. You know, people have been wearing
Holter monitors.
And this is
Yep.
just kind of an evolution of the Model T into, you know, the modern technology of the car.
Exactly.
So before I had the watch, I actually had a Holter monitor, and it's a patch that goes on your chest, and it's a little piece that's removable now, and it looks about the size of your key fob for your car, and it just pops onto that electrode. It goes to a phone. The phone goes to a monitoring center. The monitoring center, unfortunately, they called me one time when I was pumping gas. I just been doing some other stuff before that, and I was in AFib, and I was pumping gas, and I didn't recognize the phone number. I'm like, I'm not answering this when I'm pumping gas. Then they left a message, you know, this is the monitoring center. Please call us as soon as possible. And, oh my gosh, you know, that's when you kind of like, what's going on, you know? And with that, it's like a guessing game, kind of like back and forth. They don't tell you that you're an AFib because they can't tell you that, but they want to know if you feel any symptoms is what they were looking for from me, to see if they could, you know, if I feel symptoms, then they're going to do something. If you don't feel symptoms, they don't do anything for you. They just go, okay, deal with it. Here's some blood thinners. Here's some other pills. Keep on going on with your life.
Yeah, so like throughout this whole conversation, I wanted to point out going back to that same 20-some years ago when somebody said something, and perhaps at the time I was too young to even pay attention to IT, EMR is going to be the mainstream. Even if that conversation was happening, it was so low level in my priorities. I wanted to focus on my career, focus on imaging journey. I wanted to become a field service engineer for a major company, et cetera, et cetera. And like EMR was, although it was becoming mainstream, it was the back of my mind. I really didn't pay attention. So similar to this conversation, I wanted you guys to, if you are at the beginning of your journey or middle or late in your journey, pay attention to all these technologies that are coming up, because one day they're mainstream and everyone is working on them. And then somebody is actually asking you, can you do this? Oh, no, the train has already left the station. I can't really do that. I have to wait for someone from outside to come and teach me how to do that. That's number one. Number two, as they become more and more mainstream, they replace the existing technology, similar to what you said. The technology's been around for many years. Now they're becoming mainstream. As they become mainstream, the doctors will be more and more reliant on using them as a diagnostic tool, As that happens, the financial side comes after it and then becomes more relevant. Okay, now we have to look after it, we have to maintain them, we have to repair them. All that stuff falls into place. So I guess we asked that last question, who be the person who be
How's it maintained? Cool.
All this is a hosted solution, like a subscription model,
Okay.
where the devices are being put all by home healthcare nurses, like and things like that. But when they're finished, they're just putting them in the mail and sending them back to the company.
Yep.
But for that model, it's very difficult for us to even see where we put that support junction. Something being handled and being billed, and it's connected to the EHR as well.
Yeah.
that's a very valid point. Somebody offsite at the depot, a technician perhaps, is looking at that. So I guess the question here is the hospital model is going to change. The service model that we have for clinical engineers or technicians working at a hospital will
But
eventually change.
I think one of the things, like, we always think like, oh, biomeds, you know, you're in a hospital. Where are they sending it to? Who's working on it there? You know, there's biomeds there that are working on it. So
Yeah.
that's another opportunity for all of us. It's not just like hospital based, you know, you got to think outside the hospital box, I guess, is what
Yeah.
I
Go
think,
ahead.
you know, like one of the big thing.
So,
Yeah.
2 years ago, I had a physician in our AD come to me and said, I've got this idea for a watch. And they, so many things that they're envisioned on this watch that they're going to pull this data. And their vision was, you walk in the ED, we put the watch on you, and all that data just keeps flowing over to, you know, you're flowing over to Cerner. And you don't have the monitor, you don't have anything other than that watch. And he pulled me in because I'm on the biomed side, and then in the United States, he's like, you can help facilitate this a little bit. But we don't want to make any money on it. We want to make it safer and cheaper for the patient. I think you've got a different.
Wink, wink, right? We don't want to make any money on it.
But the point of it is, now 2 years has went by, and now you see a flood of these watches. Now they're not FDA approved yet, but
Right.
it's just a matter of time.
Just a matter of time.
That application starts to get
Yeah.
a medical application approval from the FDA. And it's going to change dramatically. And it's almost like where you had Blockbuster, you know, blocks is the weak point, digital is the strong point. You don't need the actual box anymore.
Yeah.
Um,
Not necessarily moving away from having brick and mortar hospital
Completely.
with respect to
Yeah.
everything that we throw on the slides today. It is just putting that seed of idea in everyone's mind that there might be different models of clinical engineering or technology out there that today is at the beginning, but 5-10 years down the track, if I start my journey today, I might be a manager or someone that is a very advanced technologist when that happens. So see that I guess the goal today. Go to the next slide.
One thing I see too, like in medical equipment, is from when I started as a tech to what now is how much more modular it is. And like everything now, you just replace a module or a piece or whatever. And I think, you know, with this kind of technology, that's kind of going to be more of what it is. But maybe it's not as high a skill level as what we are today in hospitals. There's still going to be hospitals around. I mean, but there's going to be possibilities for people.
So this slide, both of us were quite intrigued by the discussion around nanotechnology. Obviously, the applications are phenomenal out there. They're just in terms of where we at with the nanotechnology in medicine. I believe we are right at the infancy stage of this technology, but I just wanted to point out the projection for this, they're talking about by 2030, nanotechnology will be addressing some of the aging related issues in the population. Obviously, that is only like we're talking about 7 years from now, we're talking about aging related issues.
The year keeps moving, huh? On when the singularity
Yeah.
happens. Does everyone know what the singularity is? Have you ever heard the
Show of
definition
hands
of
if-
that?
if
No, I
anyone
see
has.
some people shaking their head no. So, yeah,
Go.
yeah.
Oh, correct, but if I remember right, it's technology in advance so fast that we won't need to keep up.
So, yeah.
Advancing that.
So I'll tell my definition. Rob can say what he thinks, but what I believe singularity is where right now there, we look at AI and all that stuff that's going on, and right now maybe if you take all the computers, like they're not as smart as like all the people on Earth, but at some point there's going to be a computer that's smarter than everyone on Earth, and that's the singularity, is when one
Yeah.
computer is smarter than like
We
every
have a
single
slide
person
about
combined.
discussing future of AI and future of AI in healthcare in general. But essentially what this is going to open up is we will be working on some of the technologies. Some of us perhaps will be part of the care teams that this technology would help cure cancer, arthritis, things that we don't have any solution today for will be completely a routine care in near future. So 7 years from now, for a lot of us in the room looking around, would be just the beginning of your career. So if you know something about this technology today, whether you're an engineer or technician, if you know something about this technology, once this technology gets introduced to your healthcare, if you're on the vendor side, if you're on the hospital side, you can actually be an impact to that transition.
So one thing I think that goes along with this nanotechnology, does anyone in here work in nuclear medicine? Does anyone know anything about nuclear medicine or had a nuclear medicine study done? They injected you, right? With an isotope, right? Where did it go? It was able to target whatever they were looking at, right? Like if they're looking, so guess what? If you want to do like a targeted cancer prevention or cancer treatment, and you have nanotechnology that these nanobots can actually work, you can target through that same thing that we use today in nuclear medicine, targeting nanotechnology towards those cells that you're trying to get rid of or trying to figure out what's going on, or targeting. You're able to target it. Same thing that we already have developed in medical technology now through nuclear medicine, and that's been around since probably I was a kid.
In my case, just to give you an
Yeah.
example, prostate, they lit me
Yeah.
up, they knew exactly where it
They
was.
inject you with their isotope.
Isotope.
You wait, you drink some water,
Yep.
hang out for a while.
Folks the opportunity on where to radiate.
Mhm.
Because now they can see it, it took them like a week before they could do all of that and figure it all out.
Yeah.
I got my tattoos.
I always kind of joke with people about, as a kid, I watched Star Trek, and they had this scanner that went up and down people, and they're like, okay, this is wrong with you in the medical bay. And with nanotechnology, I say like, that might not be too far from the truth in the future.
Yeah.
You ready?
Next slide, please. Synthetic biology, I guess for those of you who haven't heard about this, this is to create opportunity for synthetic material to be implanted into biological beings. So one example that is being heavily researched and perhaps some application has been already introduced is using a 3D printing technology that using a combination of synthetic and biologic material for organ, perhaps printing some organ replacement. Although this is very early stage, I can definitely see the application is going to be very relevant for hospitals that they do transplant. Perhaps somebody comes, go ahead.
And they 3D printed heart cells for kids. This from stem cells, the cells wouldn't go fast enough, so they teamed up with SpaceX and sent it to space because I guess they have introduced faster and zero gravity.
That's true. We've got a slide about
Wow.
that too. So all these technologies that we are talking about today, it's right at the beginning, research stage, perhaps early prototype, being implemented in very high advanced research centers like in our facilities. We only know that University of Colorado only beginning to talk about biomaterial implants, but as the research moves forward, there's going to be a day that there is a 3D printer sitting somewhere in the hospital, and a biomed gets a call, can you guys come and fix this? Whether that's a reality for today or 20 years from now, that is going to be somewhat possible in the future. Any questions or any
Didn't
comments
you do
about?
something with that in Australia too, when you were there?
Not me, but my team, yeah.
Yeah.
We did 3D printing for training doctors, new future doctors, I guess.
By technician, Mr. Lopez is here. He basically does all he works with the 3D lab at Mayo, and he does a lot of that stuff. He's building a lot of different devices with that. But they're buying 3D printers all the time. The doctors love it. At first it was just making models of what the tumor was.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
we did back home.
Yeah.
And they got
Yep.
4 shops.
Yeah, the idea was
Yeah.
for our doctors, the idea was to know before they start cutting into the patient, to know what to see, what to expect. Yeah.
Because first 3D printer resin,
Yeah.
plastic, and now they have metal ones, and they have, of course, what you were talking about, these other types of.
Stem
Yeah.
cells and bio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Synthetic bio, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
You ready?
I think even Rod and I had dinner last night, and we were talking with these guys in the 3D printing lab, and we have 3D printing at our children's hospital. Where she just commented, there's so many 3D printers making their way into our hospitals that yes, service on 3D printers is going to happen.
Yeah, I never thought of that part. Yeah, servicing 3D printers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
So as these technologies get introduced to your facilities, be prepared. Somebody has to look after it. Whether you rely on your vendors, the vendors need to have those skills. So if you're interested, start investing your time. I guess you mentioned.
Cloning.
Yeah, this is the 2 example, I guess, for STEM and just cloning in general. I guess everyone knows Dolly, the sheep.
The sheep.
1996, the first case of a full clone generated out of a cell of that sheep, fully grown. I think Dolly lasted 2 or 3 years. But fundamentally, the application for that, I think some cases, if I'm not mistaken, in China in 2015 or 16, somebody actually did that for human purposes.
Of course, it was China.
Yeah, and moving on from that application into the application of stem cells, as we heard the comment earlier, this is the more ethically correct, I guess, more suitable application for cancer related, or in general, any treatment related that we would want to see happening, at least in Western medicine. The idea is to get the stem cell out of patient body, and using that stem cell to generate the organ cells that they wanted to replace. Simplistically, if you wanted to get a muscle cell, you can actually use that stem cell from the same patient, generate that same cell, muscle cell out of that stem cell, and implant that into the patient's body.
Do you guys know who Rupert Murdoch is? Rupert Murdoch, is it owner of Fox?
Yeah.
So he's from Australia. And Rob and I always joke around that Rupert Murdoch probably has a lot of spare body parts because he's getting pretty old, and like they just pull him in, they replace whatever piece it is that they go in. Because
He's
when you
not-
have a lot of money like he does,
He's
you can
92
kinda
and
just
still kicking, just
keep
keeps
going.
getting new wives.
we
so
always joke around about that, like, yeah,
He's got something going for him.
yeah.
Next slide.
RNA and DNA modifications.
Yeah, so this one came to, I guess, to everyone's focus around the time that we had COVID. I guess one application was the use of COVID for the vaccination, use of RNA, RNA of the virus to create that sort of like environment to use that RNA to for that virus to interact with our body. I'm not as expert in this arena. I don't believe that this is something that we would be working in terms of our technology.
Biomed people anyway. right? Yeah.
Biomed, but I have to say, if those of you that are out there working on lab equipment,
But yeah, there are machines that do
there
this.
are machines
like,
that are definitely used in our labs that do this type of stuff, and I definitely see that could potentially be
I'm
somewhat.
surprised we didn't put it on here, but that CRISPR, so CRISPR kind of goes with cloning, where they can re-engineer the DNA to be like take out the defects, that CRISPR gene. And CRISPR is pretty new. If you haven't heard of CRISPR before, the main thing I learned about it was on, I think it was CBS Sunday Morning. So if you look up CRISPR CBS Sunday Morning, but basically it's engineering DNA. And there's a lady that did it, and then they said, you know, because of ethics, we're not going to design like babies that have all their defects engineered out of them. But I think there's some countries that don't have as many ethics as what maybe we have in the United States, that I think it's probably already going on in those countries. And maybe like even cloning or growing, you know, like different organs for people that have those things taken out. And now, you know, like organs and the cloning and all that stuff that we have, you know, it's what type of blood do you have and so on. In the future, it might be, you know, it doesn't matter what type of blood, we just have one, you know, organs that actually replace these pieces. Did you have something, Greg?
No, just on this, earlier this month, I went to visit my daughter in Würzburg. She was born with hearing impairment. And one of the things that they had mentioned was, you know, she lives in Germany now. They said there's a possibility we could have this too. Neither of our sides of the family ever had it. They said there could be this total recessive gene. And, you know, it's one of those things that my daughter said, would you come, you know, when you come to visit, would you mind going and having your blood drawn? I said, absolutely not, because, you know, the way I look at it is, you know, so I had it done. And the other question they had for me was, do you care if we check everything else? I said, you know what? I said, well, there it is. I said, go for it. Because it's, if there is something else, because, you know, my legacy is, you know, my children's children, it's better to know, you know, things that.
It's kind of like those companies where you send your blood into and they analyze it and tell you like what kind of history or what kind of defects, like health defects you might have or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the name of that place, but like
We've got a
23andMe
comment
is one of them, I
over
think.
here, but I wanted to point out this whole conversation is like, right now we're talking about research really out there, early days. 5 years, 10 years from now, that might become like mainstream. You go to your doctor, they get a sample of you based on your DNA, RNA. They might come back and say, this is your specially designed medication for you and you alone.
I said, I really would like a clone. Look how bad needs I need to.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Go ahead.
Two ladies who actually created
Mhm. Yep. That was on that CBS Sunday Morning show. Yeah. Oh.
And also that little extra doing Cambridge has a new president, and the president is not engineer or physicist, but about
Interesting. Can you say that again, Bensing? I want to hear you say that I was right once. Yeah. It's yeah, I just said it on that thing, so it's just recorded now. Mm. Mm-hmm. We'll never know. Engineer DNA.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ethics plays a huge role
Yeah.
in this, and similarly to my next slide, I think the next slide's about AI.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I agree.
We all biomeds here, I guess most of us at least. So we wanted to speak to the group about the opportunities for us, and kind of like, you know, speak to that in a fashion that kind of like, you know, puts this seed of idea in everyone's mind. Today might be a beginning for someone else that works in this industry for another 20, 30, 40 years. Go ahead, next slide. I think, yeah, AI and machine learning. I think AI.
This is like the big news lately, right? Everybody's
AI was top
everywhere.
of my mind when I came back from HIMSS. It was basically AI, more AI. I guess most of you know that currently in most university hospitals, AI is being used for mammography, diagnostic mammography. Definitely application for wearable technology, phenomenal application already exists for those type of scenarios where you have remote monitoring. The AI helps elevate those cases that are needing some additional care from provider's perspective.
Doctors don't want to see that part. Replace doctors or assist doctors.
Yeah,
I think the idea is to assist doctors, never replace them, right?
Scary thought.
But there's not as many people graduating
personally,
in med school.
I think this is where AI becomes a little bit too, I guess, stepping into a domain of, you know, a point of no return, Terminator, etc. So for me, this is where we need to step in ethics, where we need to have regulations, and perhaps some of that stuff needs to happen today before it's too late. Yeah. Especially when AI becomes a regenerative AI, when the machine can actually tell us what we need to do.
Or machines building machines that we don't even know how they work.
So all this information that you see today is actually happening right now in health. It's not like future, it's like front and center.
It's like the very beginning stage of it right now. And if you attended my class the other day, I talked about that technology curve, like the more that you invent, the more you can invent, and how the curve is steepening towards that singularity time is when like it really gets steeper. But we're kind of like in the middle of that curve, I think now, but it's advancing quickly.
I wanted to talk about this. When machines can develop, you know, this is discussion I have about that. When they can create their own code, that they only understand each other, it becomes a point of, you know, no matter how sharp of a 5-year-old kid's learning how to program on a computer, you can't compete against something that's
and the availability of data. So up until now, for everybody, I guess for biological memory, it takes a human, a kid, at least 20 years to get to a level that they can actually pass a college degree, whereas a computer that can do that learns all that information within a matter of seconds. So that we fall behind. We need to understand that ethics side of it.
I was talking to someone the other day at lunch about wearable technology, because that's what I did my presentation on yesterday. Just my data, how much data is all that, you know, and if I'm tracking my data 24 hours a day, how much data I have. Then we put everybody in this room, then we put everybody in this conference, and we all have the same data. Who's going to analyze that? Well, AI can work 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Then from the AI, it creates a report that goes to the doctor. Here's the things that are important. These other things we can erase all this other part because it's not really pertinent to what's going on with the patient now. And maybe you have a virtual health visit and they're actually able to look at pertinent data from what you have and be able to come up with solutions.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
going back to the ethics, go ahead.
What's that?
And Google says stop going to pizza restaurant on Friday because it's not.
Did you
Yeah,
have something?
We were joking about the same thing. If you have nanotechnology that is implanted in your body, and that nanotechnology is actually updating or uploading your data into the cloud is connected to a machine learning AI and is analyzing you against millions of people out there, you will have your phone or somebody is telling you into your ear that you can't have pizza tonight. That's definitely possible.
I think there's a very nefarious use of the wearable technology. The insurance companies and employers that start monitoring you, they're going to punish you. Your insurance rates will go higher. They're going to do it with car insurance.
Correct.
So there has to be some
Yeah.
kind of legislation.
You can't pick your parents, but they can like single you out for what you have, huh? It's kind of the
Yeah.
idea behind
But
that.
the positive to all of this is, first of all, if you're a coder, if you're planning to become a coder, if you were interested in that arena, there's plenty of jobs out there for people that are interested in coding. But the applications that are being implemented, they are for drug discovering. So essentially, one application that I heard, instead of having to try millions of chemical interaction, they give it to this machine learning, and the machine tells them that out of 2 billion combination, you can only try 17. So it just brings that research phase down to almost no time required. So you can actually get to the end result much faster. Going back to drugs only designed for your body, you can actually get your DNA into the machine, and the machine tells you what's needed. Medical imaging is obviously applications there for you. Diagnostics, same with the imaging. Personalized medical treatment, as I mentioned. Health record. Although it is scary to have everybody, or especially machine, monitoring your health record, imagine in a future life, from the time that you're born till the time that you're an adult, you have all your records being monitored by AI. And like, we're joking about it, but that AI tells you how much exercise you need to do, how much food you need to consume, etc., and the rest of it, and predicting what type of disease you might end up having.
I know Rob has to catch a flight, so
Yeah.
trying to get done a minute ago.
Yeah, that's okay. IoT, Internet of Things. I think Dave done a really good job with wearable technology. What we thought, we put it up here for all these applications, especially around having devices that are constantly uploading data for use of personal care, as well as overall care for population health.
And now we have the Internet of Medical Things too. IOMT, Internet of Medical Things. So there's a lot of stuff out there on the internet. Like Chris was talking about, having something secure. That's the biggest. I think one of the biggest things right now is there's not really a lot of security on some of this stuff.
Security and stuff, the geopolitical stuff is really good. And that the geopolitical, all of the stuff you talk about, the insurance and the other,
Right.
all that people want. There's already a big market out there for medical data, and so it's one of the things you get to it. But it's very interesting. You brought up Star Trek. How much on the Star Trek stuff we're looking at today?
Yeah.
The original series, the guys just lay on the
Yep.
fence, and
Yep.
things have come up. We're doing that. We don't have the tricorder yet.
Yeah.
The other thing you're talking about, virtual doctors. Remember one of the Star Trek series, they had, like a virtual doctor, after their doctor was killed, they had.
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah, yeah.
So, I mean.
Yeah.
It was really not that far off.
Virtual appointments, though, virtual health really got sped up during COVID. And I
Yeah.
think like now you see a lot more virtual. You never had it. Did you ever have a doctor visit that was virtual before COVID? Anybody? I didn't really, I mean, when I was in the National Guard, we had a system that was for virtual diagnosis of people like in the field that we did for in the military, and it was pretty archaic compared to like wearable technology that we have today. That was in the
We have two
early
colleagues
90s.
here there as well.
Yeah.
Radiologists we work with, I'm not a radiologist, but they all say they're party line on AI and machine learning is AI will never replace a radiologist, but departments that do not use AI will be replaced by those.
They actually use AI in radiology now to do mammography
Yeah.
exams. Yeah. It's been going on for years.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, it's definitely as an augmentation to existing setup.
Yeah, yeah. I don't see AI like ever, maybe it will replace, I could be wrong, you know, like
Yeah.
Ben Singh will point that out, I'm sure when I'm wrong. But it's going to assist, I think, big time doctors and make them, have them be able to focus more on doing, you know, like better things for patients,
Yeah.
I hope.
Absolutely. Another comment here.
So the only thing I was gonna say is my son was in the hospital recently and they needed a neurologist for my skin. From Texas, so they brought in the monitor, put it in front of him, and she started asking questions.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow.
Yeah, definitely.
It's gonna get more.
Yeah, and I
I'm gonna
keep going back to
answer
that
this.
message that we wanted to ask everyone in this room and within the industry, because like I said earlier in my career, nobody said anything like that to me. And had I known, I would have changed the
Directions
direction.
in your
Yeah.
career, yeah.
And
That's,
not necessarily, today is not the day, maybe it's for some people, but today is not that day for everyone. But if we can make those decisions today and prepare ourselves for the future of our industry, keep ourselves relevant for this future that comes, no matter how we prepare for it. And then as it happens, we might be at the forefront of it. We might be ready for it. And that's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it, I was amongst the leader at the summit, and sitting in the room listening to the conversation about regulatory requirements, the workforce requirement. It's the repeat of all the conversations that I've had with my peers, both in Australia and here. I feel like if we are not preparing for this future that's coming, we will be completely unprepared for this. So
I feel like
all these,
someone's going to look back in like however
someone
many
needs
years
to
and
do
say,
this
we
work.
heard these two guys at MD Expo talking about this and they said, get ready for all of this stuff in the future. And I listened to them and I did that, like maybe some of the younger people in here. And yeah, that's kind of the idea behind this whole thing. And
Yeah.
it's kind of cool to see it happen too, I think.